So don't forget to do that. And welcome everyone to this webinar that is co-hosted by the Break Exchange and the Arch National Respite Network and Resource Center. My name is Kim Whitmore, and I'm the director of the Break Exchange. I'm a researcher at the Marquette University in the College of Nursing. And I want to just hand it off to Jill Kagan from Arch to say a quick welcome and share some information with you about Arch.
Thank you so much, Kim. We're really very excited to host this webinar with the Break Exchange today, and I want to personally welcome our presenters. I feel like there is so much potential for providing respite through these community building efforts, and I was especially privileged to have known Edgar Kahn, one of the founders of TimeBanks, and to have worked with him just a bit on trying to help advance the effort for respite and for supporting caregivers. And I want to really extend my deepest condolences today to our colleagues at TimeBanks on his recent passing. It was a great loss to the community and to the world, but I'm so looking forward to the presentation today. And I'd like to dedicate it in his memory. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Kim, for allowing us to co-host this event with you.
Great, thank you so much, Jill. And I really appreciate that. I also wanted to just take a moment, the Break Exchange, we are an international collaborative, and we have a lot of partners across the globe who are directly impacted by the war in Ukraine. And I'd love for us to just take a few moments in silence and solitude with Ukraine and all of our community partners across the globe who are supporting refugees, especially our colleagues in Poland, and just recognize that we are all standing with Ukraine during this difficult time. So we'll just take a few moments in silence to stand in solidarity. Great, thank you so much for that. So we're just going to share briefly a little update on the Break Exchange for those who are new to the Break Exchange. This may be your first webinar, and we welcome you. The Break Exchange stands for Building Respite Evidence and Knowledge, and we are an incredible international group of researchers, respite providers, agencies, and anyone really who is committed to helping to build a culture of evidence-based respite care around the globe. We were founded in collaboration with some incredible partners, the International Short Break Association, the Arch National Respite Network and Resource Center, Shared Care Scotland, and Marquette University. There are many benefits of joining the Break Exchange. You have the opportunity to connect, learn, share, and collaborate. So the ways we connect through our global network is through many different ways. We have a monthly networking hour, the second Monday from 12 to 1 Central Time, that we'd love for you to join. We currently have more than 196 members from 15 countries that are part of the Break Exchange. We try to create opportunities to learn from and with each other about the different evidence-based respite care practices and research that is happening around the world. And we want you to share what you're doing. So if you're involved in projects, research, or evidence-based evaluation projects from the practice side, this is your opportunity to showcase those. We have a monthly e-newsletter. We have places on our website. We can feature things, social media, or you can even present a quarterly webinar like we have here today. And then one of the most exciting things about the Break Exchange is the opportunity to connect and collaborate with others, to find partners, to work on different evaluation and research projects with you, and leverage this exchange to help identify those partners. So we have the opportunity on our website to create a member profile that just shares a little bit about you and your interests. And then we have a searchable member database. So if you're looking for someone to connect with, that's a great place to go to find collaborators. And you can always reach out to us and we can help connect you as well. So here are some of the many ways you can stay connected to the Break Exchange, and we'll post a link in the chat so you don't have to write down any of this, but we have lots of ways on social media, joining our email list and creating that member profile, or email us anytime if you have questions as well. And then I always like to close with just a reminder that we are in the business of supporting others and promoting self-care and respite to family caregivers, but it's also important to reflect that back on ourselves, and reminder that self-care is really giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So my wish for all of you today and always is to find your own form of respite so that you can continue continue to do the great work and help to serve the families that we work with. So without further ado, I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm so delighted to welcome Krista and Kathy from TimeBanks, who are going to share some updates and some of the information about how TimeBanks can be useful in the world of respite. So I will let them share more about themselves and TimeBanks, and I will turn it over to them. So Krista, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and welcome and thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so glad to be here. I'm Krista from TimeBanks.org. We are here to build the time bank movement. Edgar Kahn is the father of time banking and also the father of our organization. So I can start the slide. Kathy? Do you see the slide? Okay.
Yes.
Kathy, did you want to start?
Sure. I'd like to thank you for having us, and sorry we had to reschedule this a few times due to COVID. So thanks for your patience and allowing us back. We'd like to thank both Arch Network and Break Exchange for letting us come today and share with you what we love to do, and that is time banking and finding different ways for time banking to work in communities and to help rebuild community. I think that's been one of the most rewarding things about all the years I've been doing time banking. I started as a coordinator back in 1999, and I am now, since Edgar's health had declined, I had offered to move up and help out the TimeBanks.org network, and since his passing have been named the chair of TimeBanks.org. So I'm really thrilled to be able to carry on Edgar's work, and even though he wasn't a real big man, they're big shoes to fill. So I do this with a lot of pride, and having Krista as our executive director has been just, tremendous for our organization. So without further ado, next slide. This one is pretty much self-explanatory, but kind of look at it, and it's all the things that I think caregivers forget about, like having coffee with a friend, just taking time for yourself. And I think that's one of the most important things. So trying to think in terms of what things you need in your life, what things can help you. But then how do we figure out how time banking can really fit into this? And I know we've tried this, numerous times. We've had some very successful programs working, but not specific to only the caregivers. So, and the care recipients, that's something we always want to include in this. So I think it's going to be a little interesting today. We appreciate questions. We actually love questions. If we don't have the answer, we will figure out an answer, because we have a network of over 20,000 people to brainstorm with us. So I think that's what's really great about the whole time banking network. Next slide. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of all this information, but it was kind of something that I felt was important because we don't always look at it that way. We don't look at the data. We don't think about it in those terms. We just see people who are helping family members, helping neighbors. And in time banking, that's what we do. You know, we do help each other out. We exchange services, but looking at some of the statistics were just amazing. That 61% of family caregivers are also working. Well, how do you find time then in there? How do you get things done? I mean, we all live, you know, we live in a fast-paced world to begin with. So thinking about that, it's like, wow, this would be really an awesome way for us to be able to help, you know, ease up some of the things, you know, maybe even just, you know, raking a yard, shoveling snow, you know, ironing, whatever it is, although I realize most people don't iron any longer. But some of the data was just astounding. And this was the majority of it was from 2020. So I thought this was an important thing for us to be looking at in the way that we think about time banking, and how can we connect? How can we help bridge this gap between social services and family services, and just, you know, bring that network back in together. I think a lot of things have impacted since the pandemic, and I'm sure you see it too. There's more families living together or helping take care of family members during this. I know it happened to me, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, if I would have had to be taking care of my mom and getting her to her appointments during this while I'm taking care of my daughter, whose entire family was affected by COVID, and people do this on a regular basis, I would have been burnt out. So I think this is an important time banking model for us to really dig in, go deep on it, and figure out ways that we can make a change here. Next slide. This was amazing. And I remember back in 2015, we had started talking about some of this with Edgar. In fact, I had the privilege of meeting Jill Kagan out in Denver in 2015. And when I looked at the difference in the numbers from 2015 till now, it was like, this is unbelievable. And why isn't the money being put into helping a problem like this? I mean, this to me was just, I just can't believe it. And the jump, the increase, you know, I mean, 32% providing care for 21 hours or more. I mean, and I'm sure this data is not even the most current, and these numbers are a lot higher than we realize, because a lot of people aren't even reporting, you know, that they're doing it. They're taking care of, you know, a loved one or a neighbor, and don't think of it in terms of, oh, I should really be reporting this. Caregivers are essential to the nation's public health, and public health right now is really suffering on so many levels. So I think this is something that we shouldn't ignore. We should really try and work on, you know, setting up an excellent model for time banking. What we're going to show you today is just a simple way, so it gets you thinking, how can we do this? How can we make a difference? Can time banking really help? I mean, you know, there's volunteers all over helping do things, but what makes time banking so different? Next slide. Okay, how can time banking help? These are some of the ways. One of the beauties of time banking is the fact that 1 hour of helping someone earns that person one time credit, an hour for an hour. That's simple. But how do you figure out this getting help, giving help, building the relationships? How do you make these networks happen? increasing, saving money, nurturing health, training people. All these things came into play. And this was actually started when Edgar himself suffered a massive heart attack. And it was kind of his personal story that made this all happen. He realized he found himself on the side of needing care. And then thinking, okay, I'm in here. All these people are taking care of me. He actually, I think at one point said to me, he counted how many different people came in his hospital room that day to take care of him. And he couldn't believe it. Then he's thinking, okay, now my wife is going to have to take care of me when I get home, get me to rehab, get me here, get me there, get my prescriptions, those kind of things. And Edgar said, what happens to people who don't have insurance? What happens to people who don't have the income? What happens to people who don't have the means or someone to help take care of them? That's when he started thinking about this whole time bank concept. How can we create another kind of money? How can we create something that's sustainable in our community? How can we engage people? How can we, turn this into a village of people helping us? So not that we like that Edgar had his heart attack, but what it did was it really made him feel stronger about how can we build a better community? How can we build better bases for taking care of the problems that are out there, helping the people who need the help? Edgar, he believed that time banking could play a powerful role in achieving a more equal society. And I think that in itself was beautiful because that's when he came up with the core values of time banking, thinking about it. Now, the majority of the time banks in most of the time banks around the world are using a neighbor to neighbor model, pretty much, helping out your neighbor, doing neighborly acts of kindness. Pretty simple. Time banks they can engage with other organizations. They can partner with them. They can target specific areas that need some help, like respite. This is an area that I feel strong. I believe in family through time banking, we can turn caregiving scarcity into a community-based self-renewing supply. And I think that's important for us to think about. Next slide. Next slide. What are some of the benefits of time banking? I could go on and on and on with this. To me, time banking can do so many things. It can impact just so many lives in so many ways. I have seen it happen. I had the opportunity to be a coordinator for 15 years through a hospital program using time banking. And we were able to just, make a difference, impact a lot of people in our, just seeing how it helped people. Some people came into the time bank and left the time bank, but they became friends. They're still friends today. And I think that's one of the things that really surprised me was how strangers became friends. People felt more comfortable asking a total stranger for help than they did asking a family member. They didn't want to feel weak. They didn't want to feel, like dependent. And that was one of the things that I think really surprised me in time banking, because I thought, well, everybody likes to give. Everybody likes to, help others. But when we heard the stories, it was interesting how people felt about that. So I think that's one of the things, and I'm sure as a caregiver, that's not something that you feel this is, you signed up for this, or this is something you want to do, but you don't want to ask people to help you in return. And I think we need to change that mindset and turn the tables here. It's not a matter of asking someone to help you, but each time in time banking, when someone helps another person, that's actually leveling everything for us. It's helping giving and the receiving end of it. I think this is well, we have a diagram that'll show you a little bit more. But I think these are some of the benefits that time banking can do. And next slide. These are some of the basic elements for time banking to work, and just different. Basically, this is how most time banks succeed in tackling projects, breaking down some barriers and things in their community. So I will let Krista, she will share with you the core values of time banking.
Thank you. We have 5 core values. 1 is assets. Every one of us has something of value to share with someone else. 2, redefining work. There are some work that money will not easily pay for, like building strong families, revitalizing neighborhoods, making democracy work, advancing social justice. Time credits were designed to reward, recognize, and honor that work. 3rd is the reciprocity, helping that works as a two-way street, empowers everyone involved, the receiver as well as the giver. The question, how can I help you, needs to change. So we ask, will you help someone too? Paying it forward ensures that together we help each other build the world we all live in. 4, social networks, helping each other. We reweave communities of support, strength, and trust. Community is built by sinking roots, building trust, creating networks. By using time banking, we can strengthen and support these activities. Number 5 is respect. Respect underlines freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and everything we value. Respect supplies the heart and soul of democracy. We strive to respect where people are in the moment, not where we hope they will be in the future.
Next slide. Okay, the second element is time banking in action. This was supposed to be a circle to show you what a circle of giving and receiving looks like. We didn't quite make it into a circle, so I'm going to go through this with you so you can understand. The main players in this are the TimeBanks.org, which is our organization, then we have individual time banks who have coordinators. Then we have the caregiver, we have the care recipient, and we also have organizations that provide respite. So I apologize for this. It's a work in action. We are actually working on getting real pictures of real people doing these things, but I'll try and explain this to you so it kind of makes some sense. Now, not all these pieces need to connect, but what's important here is you'll see the arrows going both ways. They're going from the organization to the person, from the person back to the organization. So that's kind of where we come up with the circle of giving. And it is all about both the giving and the receiving. Now, I know you're probably all thinking, well, oh my gosh, we're so stressed out. How can we give something? Well, it doesn't have to be you. It could be anybody. It's just that there's a constant pool of time being donated into here. So, and we've figured out ways that we know this can work. So we will work with everyone individually on this if we have to, but we know this works. I've actually done this through a project at the hospital. We've succeeded doing it in a few other locations, so it can work. So now you see TimeBanks.org in the center. I'm pointing to the slide and I hope I'm not messing anything up here. Going out to the coordinator, and I said TimeBanks.org, most of our time banks throughout have a coordinator. They can be a paid coordinator, it can be a volunteer coordinator. It all depends what the need of the community is at the time. Now, what'll happen is the coordinator helps give some of the structure. The coordinator is the one who can help match, do the pairing up. We call them exchange coordinators, member coordinators, many different names to it. Basically, what they do is if there's a need, she finds somebody to fill the need. The coordinator can then receive whatever she'd like for doing that simple task, childcare, manicure. It could be many things. Now, the coordinator is now helping find the caregiver, meeting the caregiver's need. The caregiver can then receive maybe a massage. Maybe they need to go to the doctor and they need somebody to sit with the person they're caring for an hour. Maybe they just need a phone call, whatever. The caregiver can then give advice to other caregivers within the overall TimeBank network. There's probably people within our network who are doing the same thing and not realizing it. Sharing some of the information, sharing some of the tips, even just by sharing things, that's giving of your time. Maybe you have a piano and somebody could use your piano for, piano lessons. The list is endless. It depends on the talent and just the creativity that's out there. And I think that's what I love about time banking is it can be complex if you want it to be, but it can be so simple. It's just about valuing people and figuring out what are their assets. So then we move on over to the top right to the care recipient. They can receive some help. They can get transportation if needed. Maybe you need a light switch fixed or, wallpaper repair. It could be, like I said, the list can go on and on and on. The care recipient, who normally is just always on the receiving end of things, they can give an ear to listen to a guitar lesson. They can share a story. Maybe they're good at crocheting and somebody wants to learn how to crochet in the time bank. I think because of the pandemic, it has enabled us to do a lot of things online. So sometimes it's not even a matter of you have to worry about that face-to-face. And I know that's going to be a question that'll come up. I will address that. How safe is all this going to be? But then the care recipient now feels some value, like they feel like they're worthwhile. They're doing something. They're not so isolated. They're not always on the receiving end. Then you go down to the respite provider. Now, this could be the organization that maybe is providing you a home care person, or maybe it could be Meals on Wheels. They're providing food delivery. what they can gain out of this is most of them have needs themselves. So the time bank can help them as well. If they're doing a fundraiser, there's lots of talent in time banks. It's amazing how much talent is in a time bank. And so they can tap into that talent and receive the hours out. So you see, it's not, the caregiver doesn't have to give to the time bank. The caregiver doesn't have to give to the respite provider. It's a two-way street, and it's a pay it forward model. And I think that's what's really important here, is that it is a pay it forward model. So it can be done so many ways. Okay, I think one of the things too I do want to mention is there are safety features built into any time bank program that is working with a vulnerable community. We've done it, it's successful, and we know how to do it. We know how to set it up. So I want you to understand that we are mindful of that. We want to be sure that the person, anybody who's going into your home or your loved one's home, we're pretty careful about most of these things. And like I said, we did it through a project at a major hospital network. So we not only had to be concerned with liability, it was HIPAA, the whole 9 yards. So we have things in place to tackle those problems. So next slide. Is there a next one? Yes. Okay, I think this is the huge element to me, is creating that extended family through the giving and receiving, showing that everyone does have a role, even funders. Funders like to have a role. A lot of times that's a good thing for all of us. But I think that the important thing about this is this gives the opportunity for time banks to build leaders. They can help us carry this on. It doesn't have to be done by one coordinator. We worked with, and we called them neighbor to neighbor care teams. We trained people to go out in our community. If they were driving someone, we made sure that they had their, current driver's license, that their car was inspected, the car was clean, things like that. So there's ways to, and we would reward them with car washes. We had members, pull up, let's wash your car. This is our team of drivers. So I think what it does, then it helps in the community, it gives people feel really good about doing these things. We had little cards that they put on their dash that said they were neighbor to neighbor care drivers. And they just felt so proud about this. They weren't your typical volunteers that would have gone to other agencies because they themselves felt like they weren't worthy. And I think that was a bad thing. Our communities had stigmas and a lot of stigma around volunteers. So time banking really does break down these barriers. It levels the playing field for everyone because we value everyone's time equally. So a doctor's time, 1 hour of a doctor's time, maybe talking to somebody about their diet, is as equal as somebody in the community who might have just come out of a shelter. So I think that's the beauty of this, is it does show that everyone has assets, and that we truly do value people. Time banking does give people a way to step forward with their strengths, their skills, their talents, things they love to do, and it allows them to share with others in the community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think we need more of it. We need to get back to doing some of the basics. Next slide. Okay, this is putting it all into practice. We have lots of ways that we have been working on There's outreach happening. There's specific enrollments, orientations, individual and group exchanges, gatherings, celebrations. I'm going to let Krista tell you about how we have taken TimeBanks.org, and we're actually working on building this and giving our coordinators a lot more of what we know that they need. And I think this is what's making our TimeBanks even stronger. Krista, would you like to share?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Since last year, actually almost 2 years, we started a town hall. It's a monthly town hall, the third Sundays of every month, and everyone is invited, members, coordinators, and just recently, Edgar joined the calls. His wife, Christine Gray, had joined the calls. It was just a monthly celebration of just sharing each other's stories, what's going on in their community. We were just so fortunate to meet so many new friends with our monthly calls. And those are, again, the third Sunday of every month. And also we, on our 4th year, decided to hand over the baton of our International Time Bank Day. We were so fortunate to meet, well, for myself, Sarah Bird, who is the CEO and Executive Director of Time Banking in UK. And it's really that that connection and that partnership that we decided to grow the International Time Bank movement. And so we're excited to continue growing that as well. And we have that in the month of March. Actually, it's celebrated on Edgar's birthday. And we also have the first Wednesday of every month coordinator calls that everyone chimes in. If you're interested in joining those calls, are extremely helpful. They're about an hour and a quarter of your time, but you get to meet other coordinators. You get to share what's going on. What are the best practices in your time bank? Those questions, there's a lot of time banks that have been out there for, 10 to 15 years. So that product knowledge that they have, how they market their time banks, how they strengthen their membership, how they get the members involved in all of that. That is a really great call that we have through TimeBanks.org. Then we also have the Time for All that we help support. It is, again, its own time banks with coordinators getting involved so they can actually be much more involved in the outreach of the things that we do as, TimeBanks.org. So we have so many opportunities. We really just want to make sure that we are growing the movement. We want to make sure that our coordinators are supported. We offer, lots of resources. We have a coordinator on call who actually works with us that reaches out to time banks that are not doing so well, or we've noticed that they haven't done any kind of exchanges. We reach out to them. Hey, how can we help you? How can we reach out? Do you need us? Do you want us to help with your orientation? All of that. That's what TimeBanks.org does.
Next slide. Time banking software. Okay, this is kind of the way that most coordinators, most time banks track people's skills, their talents, and can do the matching. A lot of them, they're called member brokers. There's a lot of different softwares out there. This just happens to be the one that TimeBanks.org is supporting at the moment. It's pretty basic. If you have more questions about this, we can go into that. And that's pretty much it. The next slide shows you, next slide, Krista. This kind of shows you just a little bit of where we are. We are global. We are in many different places. We're in Spain, Korea, UK. We're partnering with a lot of other organizations. There's a lot of things. And I think one of the beautiful quotes that Edgar had said was, we have what we need if we use what we have. And we have an abundance. So I think it's now time for us to start using it. Krista, you want to share the last slide? This is our contact information. And I thank Edgar every day for allowing me the opportunity to be practicing this and making time banking part of my life and sharing it with others out in the worldwide. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I guess questions?
Yeah, great. So Chris, if you wouldn't mind just stopping your screen share, then we can all see each other again. We do have a couple of questions in the chat and I can help to moderate those. The first one is, I think, a quick one. What is a guardian angel? That was referenced on one of the slides.
Okay, what a guardian angel does is that's actually, I'm a guardian angel in my time bank to another member, just so we can kind of make sure she has limitations and she has a habit of sometimes signing up for things that she really can't do, but she wants to. So I get to see when she plugs that in and I can kind of like pick up the phone and say, hey, honey, you really think you want to do this one? So there are safety nets built within. And most of our coordinators are just great about, noticing things like this. So that's what a guardian angel is.
Great. The next question is there a fee to use the software?
Krista.
There is, it's based on the membership count that you have in your time bank, but the first year is an initial, just a $79 just to get everything started. With the software, it's called Community Weaver. You add your own logo, your own colors, even your own languages. So it's very adaptable to your time bank.
And then a related question, Mary asked if it's possible to show a bit using the software. If that's not possible, we can talk about that, but if that is, I'm not sure if you have the capability.
Actually, what I could do is I'm going to send it on the chat, a demo.
Oh, great.
And for anybody to just play with it, the actual password and the login will be in that actual demo. So that would be something I'll
Great,
offer.
that's perfect. Thanks, Krista. And then just to note that Jill Kagan had posted in the chat that Arch was privileged to hear Edgar himself talking as a keynote at one of the past lifespan respite conferences, and she posted the YouTube video for that. So, and some great resources as well. Another question that was asked privately of me was if these materials and this presentation is available in Spanish. I know we have one of my community partners on the call, Hector Bordillo, who is very interested in this. I know, Krista, we've had some preliminary conversations about getting things translated into Spanish for use, and wondering if you have any updates on that, or we'll definitely continue those conversations.
This presentation is not in Spanish, but it's definitely something that we could provide on a later basis. Absolutely.
Sure.
Great.
I'm going to go ahead. Oh, Kim, I'm going to actually put my email address for the person who wants it in Spanish, and we can go ahead and get that set up.
Great, thank you so much. And then Cheryl asked, is there a percentage of members from various age groups? How small can membership be to be a viable group?
Okay, probably, I just had a conversation yesterday and we have pretty much determined for a successful group, 20 is a good number. 30 is even better. When we started out, we had 32 time bankers. But you'd like it to grow so you don't stress people out so they don't get burnt out. But 20 seems to work in the initial phases of, getting it up and running. As far as age, that's up to each individual time bank. We did not allow anyone under the age of 16 without a parent or a guardian with them. And it was just because of, our hospital regulations stated that. So that again is up to each individual time bank.
Great. Gabi asked, does anyone collaborate with AARP on time banking? If there's any conversations or partnerships with AARP?
Krista will take that one.
We know, again, it's us trying to, we are on a daily basis networking with TimeBanks that are not exactly affiliated with TimeBanks.org yet. And that is our lifelong mission, is to reach out to different time banks that have been on their own and just reconnecting. But one of the time banks that I know that has actually worked on a grant is in a time bank in Hawaii. So again, it's just us really trying to go, hey, what works for you? Well, they'll say, hey, we got a grant from ARP, or we got a grant from United Way. It's with that shared knowledge we get to share with other time banks. So
Great. Another question, are there ongoing fees with the software or additional costs for joining TimeBanks?
the first year, the Community Weaver is just a flat $79 just to get you started. And you have tech support, you have a coordinator on standby to help get you set up. But that is the only fee that is with just the software part of it. You can be involved in our organization, be involved in as a member. There's no cost to being a member or being involved with us, but it's just the software part of it. And then you could either look at our software and pay either a monthly fee or an annual fee, but that's the next year. And it's just based on the amount of members that you have. So there is a wiki site that we could actually share as well, the cost of that. But again, just to get you started in your time banks, you don't necessarily need to join on our software. It's just a part of getting started and that shared knowledge with other coordinators just to get you, started.
Great. Yeah, I know when I first talked with Krista, I was blown away at how inexpensive it was to connect, and she had shared that that's really the mission of this, that it's not about money, it's about time, right? So it's pretty incredible. There's another comment, love this presentation. It would be great to watch a video of this process in place. Is there a video or YouTube? I think you shared the demo of the software. Is there any other? I'm not sure, Carol, if there's more to that question. I see you're on camera. If you want to unmute, you could just ask your question if you'd like. Looks like there. Great. Hi, Carol. Carol, I see you're unmuted now and connected. Do you want to add more to that question, or did the video of the demo suffice? Oh, she's still trying to connect.
I did want to mention, Kim and everyone, on our website, we have several videos that you can look at, but then also our YouTube channel. I could go ahead and share that again, but there are a lot of our town halls, the International Time Bank Day, a lot of other time bank videos that are on our YouTube channel.
Great, great. Carol, if you get connected and you want to chat, feel free to post it in the chat as well. Next question is from Cheryl. What can you tell us about turnover in membership?
Okay, that I think is, it's not so much turnover in membership. What it is people come into time banking. A lot of times they join for a reason. Maybe they need a little bit of extra help, or they just want to meet people and, in a safe environment. And then life gets in the way, and maybe then they're not so active for a while, but they always have that insurance there. They always know they can come back whenever they want. Some people actually will move out of the area, take their time credits and transfer it to whatever state they're going to, whatever town they're going to, if there's a time bank close by. If they do move back into town, we re-engage them once again. So I think that's what's the beauty of it. So it's not really a turnover in membership. It kind of ebbs and flows. I know in the 15 years that we had it at the hospital, when we were at our high, we had over 700 members. Were they all active? No, I would say about 350 were active. So it's a matter of what people's interests are, what are the needs at the time. And a lot of it is keeping your coordinators, like finding ways for them to stay in touch with their members, because a lot of times people forget to update their offers or, things like that. So I really can't say that it's so much of a turnover. Most people who join stay, because our time bank now is going into 20 some years, and there's people that came in the beginning. So it's all a matter of what's there for them at the time. A time bank is only as rich as the talent that's there at, that day, that time. Does that kind of answer it?
I wanted to include something as well. I know that, COVID hit a lot of time banks, and what we did as an organization is that we actually, instead of having monthly coordinator calls, we had weekly calls. And a lot of people who were not familiar how to do a Zoom call, how to do Google or a live call, we had coordinators actually do instructions for their members, and it was all different ages, but it was that part where, okay, we got to change this because we still want to be involved in our community. And I remember having this conversation multiple times with Edgar, because it wasn't, it's not social distancing, it was physical distancing. And I wish we used that word instead of social distancing, because we are still social and we still can be social. We just have to do it in a different way. And I think that whole message to our communities of social distancing really isolated a lot of people. And I think that this is where we need to hit home with time banking, is that it's reconnecting. It's our members getting involved again, reminding each other that, oh my gosh, I could help you, or you can help me. It's just a simple concept. So it's just that reminder. So I think it's beautiful. I think that we've been seeing a lot of reconnections about, we're slowly but surely taking our mask off, or we're going out to, we're getting there. We're like, it's kind of like we're getting out of our silo. And so that's what time banking is all about. It's just like, hey, we're here for each other. And it's just that part that I loved about when Edgar was like, it's not social, it's physical. Right now it's physical. So
Yeah, that's great. Jill asked a question. Can you identify any time banks that are currently focused on providing respite or caregiving support?
Yes, we actually have some that are doing it, but they're doing it in a combined effort, though that's not their specific focus. There is one in Ontario that is working specifically with the aged community. I reached out to her. I met her through our International Time Banking Day. So these tools that we offer are so huge and so important for keeping our coordinators connected. So I have her and I are supposed to talk next week. So I'm anxious to hear about what they're doing there versus how we can, share that model here. So, yeah.
Great.
So I'll let Jill know.
Great.
yeah.
And then
I think there's also one in Pennsylvania, Reading, Pennsylvania, that they work with hospitals, and the time banking there is mainly just working on transportation for the hospitals.
They're doing more working with the care management end of it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of small projects happening within time banks. So we do have some really good tools for that.
great. And then Carol, I see you posted you got back in. Did you want to unmute and ask more on your question?
You guys actually answered it. Thank you so much. I sneezed and then all of a sudden I lost my video. I'm like, crazy. Thank you so much.
Great. And then lots of great links and lots of positive feedback in the chat. So we'll make sure to save all that for you as well. We have time for maybe one more question or comment if folks have any last questions for Krista or Kathy. Well, this was just a wonderful presentation. I think there is so much potential for us to leverage TimeBanks to provide respite and other caregiving supports. And one of the things that we'd love to do through the Break Exchange is to help connect those who are interested in this. So if this is something you're interested in learning more about, getting more involved, we'd love to start a little club of people who want to pilot these TimeBanks, and we can connect and collaborate with each other. So if you please reach out and let us know if that is something you are indeed interested in. We want to thank Krista and Kathy for their time. We are so grateful for this incredible presentation, and thank all of you for joining this presentation today. Oh, there is one last question. We'll get that in. Ramona asks, how will this tie with persons on waivers? So Ramona, I don't know if you want to unmute and share more about that. If not, we can try to answer that the best we can.
Yeah, because the persons that I work with are on some form of waiver. Okay, so, but we're having a real difficult time getting providers, as you know, because people aren't applying still. They're still in that mode of anxiety or what have not. So if we go time, with this program, the persons still aren't getting their waiver satisfied so they can maintain it. So it's like it would almost have to be an either or from my grasp of time banking. So would I be correct in that? I mean,
I think that's a conversation that I'd like to go a little bit deeper on. Right now, our time bank is based out of our federally qualified health center. We moved from the hospital to the health center. And I know that we have a lot of our patients who are members of the time bank are on the, in that situation. So I'd really like to talk to some of my social workers and our case managers. So if you can leave your contact information, I'd love to, continue this conversation.
I'm doing that.
Yeah, because I think these are important things for us to know. And how do we set up a really good model? Because that's our goal, is we want to have a model that is specific to caregivers and make sure that we're, answering all the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you
And
receive it? Kathy, did you receive it?
Yes, I see it in the
Okay.
chat.
Thank you.
And then Leslie did comment on that. Ramona said that if it is unpaid, it should not affect the waivers, but it would need to be in addition to waiver requirements. So it could be a supplemental or, but I agree. I think there's some more conversations to be had. I think that's what's exciting about this is, as Kathy mentioned, figuring out what is a good model for adding in TimeBanks as an option to support these families and caregivers out there. So we are about at our time, and I don't see any other questions. So I will turn it over to Chris and Kathy for any final words that you want to share. Again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. The one thing I did want to share is that how I met Edgar Kahn is through, and I have to look for it in the YouTube, but it was a conference where someone stood up and she said that she has nothing to give. And Edgar looks at her and he goes, "You have so much to give. You have love to give." And that whole room you could feel the energy and that power. And it froze me. I thought, gosh, yes, everyone has something to give. Whether it's reading a story or sharing each other's, dreams, that's an hour of time, an hour of credit. And it's just, it could be as simple and beautiful like that. So I wanted to share that.
That is an incredible way to end. It gave me goosebumps. So thanks, Krista. Wonderful. Kathy, anything you want to share in closing?
I can't top that. That's beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much, and definitely please stay connected, everyone. And we will be posting the recording of this on the Break Exchange YouTube as well as the Arch website, and we'll send out a link to that to all registered attendees. So appreciate your time today. Thanks for giving that hour of time to us, and we look forward to finding ways to give that hour of time back to all of you as well. So have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.